February 20th, 1943, Guadalcanal in the Solomon Islands. Dawn broke not with birdsong but with screaming, a raw, collective howl that tore through the humid jungle as nearly 800 Japanese soldiers launched a final, desperate Banzai assault through dense undergrowth toward American lines, and Sergeant James McKinley felt the weight of that sound settle into his chest as he watched the enemy close the distance. 50 yards, 40, 30, the numbers ticking down faster than his thoughts could keep pace, knowing that the terrifying mathematics of a Banzai charge left little room for hope once the line was breached, because men running 10 miles per hour with fixed bayonets turned combat into a matter of chance rather than skill, and the M1 Garand that had dominated European battlefields suddenly felt too slow, too narrow, too precise for the chaos rushing toward him. Yet McKinley was not holding his rifle that morning, because strapped across his back was a weapon the Marine Corps had nearly discarded, a World War I trench gun that many officers considered obsolete, a 12-gauge pump-action shotgun that had not seen widespread use since the trenches of France 25 years earlier, and as Japanese soldiers burst through the final wall of vegetation, McKinley raised that forgotten relic, unaware that what followed would force the Marine Corps to rethink jungle warfare entirely, even though doubts had plagued him since the shotgun was first placed in his hands. 3 weeks earlier, when Lieutenant Colonel Pearson ordered their distribution after reviewing casualty reports from previous Banzai encounters, reports that showed rifle-equipped units being overwhelmed at close range, but skepticism was widespread, because the pump action felt clumsy compared to the smooth semi-automatic rhythm of the Garand, and 5 shells in a magazine felt like a backward step compared to 8 rounds in a clip, especially in a war where firepower often meant survival. And the morning itself began deceptively normal as McKinley's 12-man squad established a defensive perimeter along a ridge overlooking a narrow jungle valley choked with mahogany trees and tangled vines, humidity hanging like a suffocating blanket while birds chattered and leaves rustled, creating a false sense of routine that every Marine on Guadalcanal had learned to distrust. Private Harrison, 19 years old and fresh-faced beneath layers of grime, sat nearby cleaning his trench gun with meticulous care, adapting faster than most yet still quietly wondering whether 5 shells would be enough when the Japanese came, and the first sign of danger arrived as it always did, with silence, the birds stopping, insects fading away, the jungle itself holding its breath, and McKinley immediately signaled his men as Corporal Daniels acknowledged from 20 yards left, chambering around with a metallic pump that sounded unnaturally loud in the stillness, and through binoculars. McKinley spotted movement 400 yards downslope, figures emerging one by one, disciplined, deliberate, unmistakable, counting 50, then 70, then over 100, spreading across nearly 200 yards of front, far wider than any charge his squad had faced before, each man carrying an Arisaka rifle with fixed bayonet, moving with the coordination that had shattered American defenses across the Solomons, and radio chatter confirmed the worst as adjacent units reported similar formations assembling along the ridge, at least 800 attackers in a coordinated assault, leaving McKinley's squad facing roughly 60 enemies in jungle terrain that limited visibility to under 50 yards, with trench guns carrying only 25 shells per man compared to 80 rifle rounds, and when the charge began it came with the infamous battle cry, 800 voices screaming in unison, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the earth itself as the formation surged forward at a practiced pace that would close the distance in under 2 minutes, weaving through trees, maintaining spacing to avoid concentrated fire, driven by men who expected to die, Harrison calling out range estimates with professional calm as the enemy closed from 300 yards, McKinley seeing individual faces now, young men twisted with fanatical determination, knowing these were not reckless last stands but calculated tactical decisions designed to exploit American weaknesses at close range, and at 200 yards he ordered preparations as Marines shifted behind fallen logs and shallow depressions, trench guns feeling inadequate against the approaching wall of bayonets until Daniels positioned himself at a natural choke point where terrain funneled attackers into a corridor less than 30 yards wide, understanding both the advantage and the danger, his shotgun loaded with shells carrying 9 pellets each. 45 projectiles waiting behind 5 triggers pulls. And as the charge reached 100 yards, voices separated from the collective scream, roots tripping runners who never slowed, some carrying satchel charges, others swords alongside rifles, panic flickering across the faces of newer Marines as hands shook around unfamiliar weapons. Yet at 75 yards the jungle itself began to betray the attackers, forcing them into predictable avenues of approach. And McKinley realized the very vegetation that limited rifle fire was shaping perfect. Kill zones for shotguns, adjusting positions, directing Harrison to the main approach while Daniels held the secondary. And when the final 50 yards vanished in seconds, McKinley flicked off the safety, feeling the unfamiliar balance of a trench gun, knowing everything he had learned about conventional warfare no longer applied. And when the first Japanese soldier burst through at 40 yards, McKinley fired the 12-gauge blast, sending 9 pellets in a widening cone that dropped not just one man but 2 beside him, all 3 falling instantly, the pumps cycling smoother and faster than any Garand reload. And suddenly the jungle thundered with shotgun fire, booming blasts replacing sharp rifle cracks, Harrison's second shot catching 4 men at once, pellets spreading nearly 15 feet wide, vegetation no obstacle as branches scattered buckshot instead of stopping it, ricochets striking from impossible angles, McKinley firing through leaves that would have defeated rifle rounds, Daniels engaging 6 attackers at 25 yards, firing twice in rapid succession, double buckshot devastating the confined trail, all 6 falling within seconds, and combat transformed from careful marksmanship to instinctive pointing, rapid fire replacing precision as McKinley realized each 5-shell magazine delivered the equivalent of dozens of impacts, Harrison discovering that buckshot curved around trees, striking enemies in cover, deliberately using ricochets, humidity that plagued rifles having little effect on shotgun performance, Daniels cycling shells without conscious thought, maintaining continuous fire as Japanese commands dissolved into confusion, their training built around the Garand's distinctive clip ejection rendered useless by the uninterrupted boom of pump guns, and by the 10th shot McKinley understood the trench gun was not obsolete but perfectly suited for jungle warfare. Harrison developing a rhythm of firing 3 shots and topping off 2 shells, keeping his weapon alive. In the chaos as the Banzai charge fragmented into scattered, desperate individuals, and when the firing ceased after 3 minutes and 40 seconds the jungle fell silent once more, 23 enemy dead before McKinley's squad, no Marines killed and only 2 lightly wounded, numbers that stunned Lieutenant Colonel Pearson when he reviewed the after-action report. Because typical rifle defenses produced 4 to 6 casualties per squad and far higher American losses, and Pearson recognized the implications immediately, calculating that while rifle doctrine relied on long-range fire that jungle terrain made impossible, trench guns delivered overwhelming firepower in the 15-second window that mattered most, ammunition efficiency skyrocketing as 12 shells produced 1 casualty compared to 60 or more rifle rounds. Medical reports showing shotgun wounds incapacitated instantly rather than allowing attackers to continue forward, psychological effects compounding physical ones as captured Japanese soldiers later described terror at the sound of continuously firing thunderguns, and terrain analysis revealing that jungle funnels matched shotgun spread perfectly, leading Pearson to recommend expanded trench gun distribution. Yet the monsoon rains that followed exposed weaknesses as constant moisture caused malfunctions, extractors sticking, wooden stock swelling, shells degrading as cardboard hulls absorbed water, Harrison experiencing jams during night ambushes, Daniels improvising field modifications with beeswax and petroleum products, discovering overlubrication worsened problems, maintenance burdens growing heavy as Marines rotated weapons to keep some dry, morale shaken by uncertainty, ammunition supply strained by heavier shells, yet units that adapted continued outperforming rifle-equipped forces, forcing leadership to choose between logistical complexity and battlefield superiority, a dilemma that followed the trench gun into later battles. Where environments shifted again, volcanic sand and sulfur air replacing jungle mud as Marines landed on Iwo Jima in February 1945, ash grinding into mechanisms, Yet Japanese defenses now relied on bunkers and tunnels that recreated the close confines of World War I trenches, where shotguns again proved decisive, clearing concrete passages barely 4 feet wide. Thunderous blasts disorienting defenders, specialized breaching rounds punching through cover, psychological collapse following the first shots in claustrophobic darkness, ammunition consumption soaring but casualties plummeting as McKinley's squad cleared 14 tunnel systems without a single fatality, the trench gun proving adaptable across jungle, monsoon, and subterranean warfare despite maintenance challenges. And by March the weapon once dismissed as outdated had become one of the most sought-after tools in the Pacific. Its legacy cemented not by theory or doctrine but by Marines like McKinley, Harrison, and Daniels, who learned under fire that sometimes the future of warfare lies not in new technology, but in understanding the environment, the enemy, and the brutal mathematics of survival at close range.